Hi, I'm Graham Elwood, and welcome to another edition of the Church of Batman. Today I want to go over an interview in Mother Jones. Mother Jones has done some good stuff. They also were part of the normalization of the alt-right, along with the LA Times and some other fine papers. But doesn't mean everything they're doing is awful. So they have an article that basically, most of it is an interview, and it's labeled "How Liberals Can Use the Tea Party Playbook to Stop Trump." This came out December 19th. So what happened was first week or so of December, there was a 23-page Google document titled "Indivisible: A Practical Guide for Resistance in the Trump Agenda," and the guide was put together as a side project of a largely anonymous group of former Democratic congressional staffers who sought to help fellow progressives do something more constructive than signing online petitions. Quote, "Hill staffers don't have a lot of skills, that's why so many become lobbyists," explains 31-year-old Ezra Levin. The collaboration's unofficial spokesman, whose day job is at the anti-poverty think tank, is at an anti-poverty think tank. The one thing that we have is knowledge of how Congress works. So it's pretty cool, and we're going to go into this because if you're like me, since the election, you've been wondering what to do, and in the last month or two, I've called more senators than I probably have in the last 10 years, and signed online petitions and all this stuff. And this we're going to go into, give you a very clear playbook on what to do. So what they basically went and they looked at what the Tea Party did. So when Obama won in 2008, that's when the Tea Party basically was formed. It was all those white people that said, if Obama becomes president, I'm moving, and they realized, oh, there's nowhere I can go. There's nowhere that is white, Christian, conservative, everybody speaks English, and you can own a gun. There's no country else on the face of the earth, except here, where you can do all those things. So that's why they were like, oh, we're going to fight. We're going to fight tooth and nail. So, and obviously it's not going into the nasty tactics that the Tea Party did. But what they did is they fought at every level. So what the Tea Party did accomplished, it basically helped end any sort of progressive reform under Obama. And what their members did is they changed votes and defeated legislation. They radically slowed federal policy making. They forced Republicans to reject compromise. That's the thing. When the Republican Party was like, no, it's because this small band of people bugged the Republicans so badly. They shaped national debate over Obama's agenda. They paved the way for the Republican takeover in 2010 and basically Donald Trump today. The crazy stuff they did was they ignored reality and made up their own facts. And they threatened anybody they considered an enemy. They physically assaulted and spat on staff, shouted obscenities, all that crazy nonsense. So we don't need to do that. But they're how they stayed focused and didn't allow lawmakers to stray is very effective. So going back to what Ezra Levine says, he goes, "We know what worked when we were in Congress. We saw the Tea Party adopt a very effective strategy that effectively slowed down Congress and defeated many progressive priorities." And he worked as a duty policy director for Representative Lloyd Doggett, a Democrat from Texas. Indivisible explains how the Tea Party did it and how progressives can do the same without the crazy Tea Party nonsense. Because the Tea Party was wrong and their ideas were horrible. It was so funny how the Tea Party were so mad at Obama's $700 billion in stimulus, and I heard no Tea Party complaints. I didn't even know the Tea Party existed when Bush did the exact same thing in September of 2008. It was because of black president. They try to say otherwise, but there was people at Tea Party rallies that said I had to keep the White House white shirts. No, that's not racist at all. So this guide, the practical guide for resisting the Trump agenda, has been read thousands of times. And so, but what Levin thinks, he says, but I think that's what is important and heartwarming are that the rural districts in California or Georgia or Florida are saying, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I've been looking for. So we're going to get into this. So Mother Jones asks, how did you come up with this idea? Levin says, we thought our value add to this conversation is to demystify Congress for everyone. The Tea Party had a lot of nasty tactics that were needlessly aggressive and petty and scary, but they proved it is indeed possible for a committed, relatively small number of folks across the country to make Congress listen to them and to slow and stop an agenda. The way we see it, there's a much larger group of people around the country now that feel that way than there was in 2009, 2010. He says it right here, progressives are the majority. We won the popular vote by a long shot, and Donald Trump and the congressional Republicans representing mainly rich old white men are a minority. If we stand up together and use the effective strategies and tactics the Tea Party use, we believe we can stop them. Now, that's the thing here. This idea that Trump and the Republicans have this sweeping mandate. So it's not just that Hillary won the popular vote. It's the 8 million people that voted third party on top of that. So there's almost 10, 11 million people that did not vote for Trump, not to mention the 100 million people that didn't even vote. So he doesn't have the sweeping mandate. He doesn't have it. So it's, and don't let them tell you that, oh, you liberals are on your way out. This is the death toll for liberals. And it might be the death toll for the Democratic Party's way they've been doing business. The party, I don't know if it's going to collapse, but it needs to change. But this is what we, as just regular Americans who are liberal progressives, what we can do on a daily basis. So what did the Tea Party do effectively? We point to a two-pronged strategy that made the Tea Party successful. One, you have to be local. You have to focus on your local members of Congress. Looking around at all these great groups that have popped up, we've even seen people say, hey, contact the committee chair, contact their leadership on this or this member of Congress. What we know from our time on the Hill is that members of Congress care about re-election most of all. That's all they care about. And that means they care about their constituents. So you have to be a constituent to make your voice heard, which basically means, and he goes into it, and this is something I've done in the last month, but I won't do anymore. So like if you live in California or New York or something and you call a representative from Texas or North Carolina, they don't care because you're not a voter for them. That doesn't matter. Stick with your folks. Second strategy that the Tea Party smartly embraced was one of being almost entirely defensive. They consciously decided not to figure out which of their really abominable conservative policy priorities to prioritize. Instead, anything that came out of the Obama White House, they were against. What they recognize is that when you've lost the White House and the House of Representatives and the Senate, you're not setting the agenda anymore. We progressives find ourselves in a similar situation now. So when you're talking to your member of Congress, your leverage is responding to whatever is on his or her plate right now. This does not mean abandoning a vision for the future. This guide is really meant for the local activists on the ground who are trying to make their voices heard. The hard truth is they're going to have to respond to the Republican, very conservative agenda that is being set. And we're already seeing this by Trump's appointments. They asked, do you think Republican members of Congress listen to the progressive constituents? The answer is absolutely yes. The bottom line is that every single member of Congress has to get voted into office every 2 or 6 years. This means they need to look really good in their home district and state. That means good local press. That means people in their district thinking, man, I really don't like Congress, but I like Senator Bob. I really do not think there is a serious split between Republicans and Democrats in Congress and how representatives, how responsive they are to constituents. This is a great point. So if you're a progressive and you live in a red district or a red state, call your representative, even if they're a Republican, and say, I don't support this and this and this, and I'm a registered voter in this, zip code. They will listen. And every representative has a website through Congress. Like mine is Kamala Harris. Hers is harris.senate.gov. And you can email or call. So on the flip side, you're telling progressives in blue districts or bubbles that they shouldn't spend time calling Texas or North Carolina, like I talked about. Why is that? That's absolutely right. For the same reason, when someone is running for re-election in Texas, they're not looking for votes in California or New York. It is really crucial that folks focus on their own representatives. If you call or write a member who does not represent you, I can tell you that contact is going to be a waste of time. You might as well just talk to yourself in your living room, like I'm doing right now. What if your member of Congresses are great? Another crucial thing Tea Party did really well is focus in on the folks who are more or less on your side and make sure they are as bold as possible. This is the most important thing, I think, for progressives. This is where we have failed. This is where we have, and I'm putting myself in this. We have gone, oh, there's a Democrat in the White House, or, I got Democratic representatives. They're going to do the right thing. I just let them, I'm sure they'll go handle it. No. You got to call them on issue, and after issue, and hold them to it. You got to hold them to it. That you got to let them know, I voted for you, and you better push through, and don't bend over to the banks or big oil or the NRA or any of that other nonsense. That's what Obama did way too much of. He didn't. It was nice. He did okay, but he didn't fight hard. And then he's out there starting wars and getting on board with big banks. The way the most damage will get done in Congress during the next administration is when Democrats go along with the authoritarianism or racism or corrupt being proposed by the other side. Stiffening the spine of progressive members of Congress is crucial. Do not back down and let your representatives know it. So what do you see as the best case scenario for this strategy? Will it be as taking a sting out of Trump policies, or will it stop them in their tracks? A mix of both, Levin responds. The bottom line is that our ideas are supported by more Americans than theirs. And that's true, and I talked about this in another issue. Look on the local level. Look, so many states voted for progressive things, like upping the minimum wage, legalizing marijuana. So you see that it isn't this sweeping Republican agenda. What happened was there was a bunch of counties too that voted for Obama twice and then voted for Trump, and that was mainly because of jobs. The Democrats lost sight of that. But the liberal progressive idea, not what the Democrats have done, but the liberal progressive ideas are better for most people. They really, and Democrats have not done enough, and so then the Republicans have used all these issue-based things. Oh, transgenders in the bathroom and gay marriage and all this other stuff to get that group kind of riled up, or, oh, the Muslims are coming or whatever. But the liberal progressive idea is actually is better for people. It's better for the working man. Medical or legal recreational marijuana, by the way. Look at state like Colorado, which is now making a lot of money. They're paying their teachers more. They're building housing for the homeless. People are okay with that. So to the extent that we shine a light on the bad things that are being done, that's another thing too. So we all have to pay attention to everything that's happening. And slow down the things that they're really going to try to ram through Congress. That's going to have a positive impact too. The goal is to quickly pass as much bad legislation and regulatory change as possible, because they know their ideas aren't popular and they know they don't represent the vast majority of the country. That's why we got to pay attention more than ever. Do you think Trump and the Republicans are more vulnerable now than Obama and Dems were in 2009? Structurally, that's clearly the case. Obama had a mandate for change and Trump clearly does not. The Democrats had a much larger majorities in Congress when Obama first took office. Our position now is actually stronger, though it's hard to imagine. But it's only stronger if people act. If people don't get as engaged as the Tea Party was, we are going to lose. Okay? So, start calling and emailing your local representatives. Online petitions are great and everything, but we've learned this. Calling a senator from another state does nothing. Call your local representatives or email them on specific issues, especially when there's a vote coming up or this nomination of all of these awful people. that Trump is going to try to get in his cabinet, make sure your local members of Congress know you don't support that. This is Graham Elwood for I'm losing my voice. Church of Batman. I'm Batman.